The following is transcribed.
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who kills of mortal men, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, wages a never-ending battle for truth and justice. Today, with Superman still unaware of what is going on, Cub reporter Jimmy Olsen hears once again from Abdul, the man who presented him with the amazing Genie.
Hello, Jim Olsen speaking.
This is Abdul.
Abdul? Oh, yes.
I say that the Genie Shoshaya has granted your first wish.
Boy, I'll say he did.
Then I presume you will ask him to grant another wish today?
Well, I don't know. I've been kind of wondering.
Go on. Ask him and he will grant it. Just as he did yesterday. But remember, the hour for communication with Shoshaya is 6 o'clock.
You know, gang, there's always one fellow or girl in the neighborhood who's looked up to by all the others. He knows the score. And it's a safe bet that most people look up to such a fellow not so much for what he knows, but for the things he does. The way he acts toward other people, his ability to get along with all boys and girls in town, no matter what their race, religion, or nationality. Well, gang, here are some pointers that might help you become the leader of your neighborhood. They've been tried many times and proven true. Now, check your own action against these questions, scoring 1 point for each yes and nothing for each no. Answer honestly. If your total score is 3 or less, then you'd better get on the ball and change your ways. If your total is 4 or 5 points, then you're about average. But if your score is 6 or 7, then, brother, you know the score. Now, here's question number 1. Are you interested in lots of things? For instance, if one of the boys on the block is keen on machinery, can you talk to him about it or listen to him while he explains a special type of machine to you? Or if another fellow is all wrapped up in stamp collecting or chemistry, ever take time out to ask him about it? Well, we know some guys who are interested in sports and nothing else. Anybody who isn't interested in sports, they call a bookworm. But the guy who knows the score also knows that people are interested in lots of different things, and he should be too. So, question number 1 is, are you interested in many things? Well, you think that over, and a little later in the program, we'll give you the other 6 questions. So be sure to keep listening.
And now, the adventures of Superman. A bearded man who wore a turban and earrings and who called himself Abdul presented a small bronze statuette of a creature half man and half ram to Jimmy Olsen, cub reporter for the Metropolis Daily Planet, saying it would make his wish come true. Later, to Jimmy's amazement, the genie actually appeared to talk. And when the cub reporter wished for a big news scoop, he was told to enter a deep sewer tunnel nearby, and his wish would come true. Jimmy made his way into the tunnel where a terrific explosion occurred, and only the arrival of Superman saved Jimmy's life and prevented a citywide disaster. But Jimmy had his scoop, a page 1 story in the Daily Planet signed with his own name. As we continue now, it is the following morning. Superman, in his guise of mild-mannered, bespectacled Clark Kent, is in Lois Lane's office where he is talking with the Daily Planet's girl reporter.
Isn't it wonderful, Clark? I mean, about Jimmy getting that terrific scoop?
No, Lois, I don't think it's wonderful at all.
Oh, now, Clark, don't tell me you're jealous.
Well, nonsense. But if a rat hadn't run into the trip cord and set off the dynamite charge while Jim was still 25 feet away, he would have tripped over the cord and been blown to bits.
Oh, good heavens. He was lucky, wasn't he?
And how? But he can't expect to be as lucky the next time.
The next time? What do you mean?
Well, my hunch is that Jim was deliberately lured into the tunnel by somebody who expected him to stumble over the tripcord and be blown up.
Oh, rubbish. Who would want to do that to Jim?
Well, I can't imagine. But once when I was questioning Jim about who gave him the tip, he started to mention a name and then caught himself. But what I heard sounded like Genie.
Genie?
Yes. Do you know any friend of his named Genie?
No, I don't.
I'm worried, Lois. I'm very much worried.
Why, Clark? It's all over now.
I doubt it. Somebody tried to kill Jim once. He'll try
Oh,
again.
now, Clark, I think you're imagining things as usual.
I'm not. I tell you.
Hello, colleagues.
Why, hello, Jim. Congratulations. That was a terrific story.
Thanks, Miss Lane. Hi, Mr. Kent.
Morning, Jim.
Did you get a load of that headline? Daily Planet reporter discovers plot and Superman saves city from disaster by James Olsen. Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
Wonderful.
Take it easy, Jim. I'll see you both later. I got some work to do.
Gee, he wasn't very cordial, was he?
Oh, forget it, Jim. Tell me all about your scoop. Tell me about, Genie.
What did you say?
I said tell me all about Genie. You know, the one who tipped you off to that scoop yesterday?
How did you... I mean, what are you talking about?
Uh-oh. So Clark was right.
What do you mean?
He said you started to say that some girl named Genie tipped you off to the scoop and then you went mum.
Oh, well, he's wrong. I don't know any girl named Genie.
Now, Jim.
I don't, Miss Lane, honest.
Well, then why did you get so fussed just now when I mentioned the name Genie?
Who, me? What?
Yes, you can't fool me. Something is bothering you, Jim. Isn't there?
Oh, shucks. Look, Miss Lane, do you believe there's any such thing as supernatural powers?
Supernatural powers?
Uh-huh. What I mean is, do you think, say a statue of anything could talk?
Whatever makes you ask such a silly question?
It's not silly, honest. Look, if it was a statue of... not really a statue,
Oh, just a minute, Jim. Hello? Just a moment, please. It's for you, Jim. Important.
Oh, thanks. Hello, James Olsen speaking.
Sahib Olsen. This is Abdul.
Oh.
I am happy, my friend. And my master will be happy to know that Shushaya has granted you your first wish.
Oh, you mean the...
Yes, Shushaya, the genie.
Oh, yes.
Now Shushaya is ready to grant your second wish this evening.
This evening?
Of course. Have you forgotten? You are to express your wish to Shushaya at sundown, at 6 o'clock.
Well, no, but...
And remember, you are to wish in the same place you were last evening.
Oh, yeah, and Mr. Kent's off... I know.
Good. One other thing. Remember, if Shushaya is to grant your wish, it is imperative that you reveal nothing of what transpires between you to others. Do you understand?
Yeah, sure.
Very well then, my young friend. Good luck, and may Shushaya continue to favor you as you deserve.
Thanks. So long, Abdul.
Well, that was rather a strange conversation, Jim, judging by your remarks.
It was?
Yes. Who's Abdul?
Oh, kind of a friend of mine, Miss Lane.
I see. Now, what did you mean before when you asked me about supernatural powers and statues, which weren't really statues being able to talk?
Oh, nothing, Miss Lane. I was just kidding.
Now, don't give me that. You had something on your mind, Jim. Now, come on, out with it.
No, thanks very much, Miss Lane, but I'll settle this myself. This evening.
Warned by the mysterious Abdul not to reveal anything of the genie to others, Jimmy Olsen decides to keep another rendezvous with Shushaya that evening. What will happen? We'll be back in a moment to find out, so keep listening.
Well, gang, here are the rest of the questions that will tell you if you know the score. Remember, score 1 point for each honest answer of yes and no point for no. Okay, here's question number 2. Would you stick up for kids smaller than you who are picked on by tough guys? A boy or girl who wants to lead must help to see that no bullies get to first base. Question number 3. Do you respect the right of any boy or girl to worship in whatever church or synagogue he chooses? You should, because whoever looks down on other religions is never looked up to by other Americans. Question number 4. Do you speak up for the things you believe in? Yes, let everybody know just where you stand. A true leader speaks up for what he believes. Question number 5. Are you up on what's happening in the world? You know, gang, the newspapers aren't just printed so that you can deliver them. They're also printed so that you can read them and know what's going on. Question number 6. Do you insist on fair play at all times? And by all times, I mean even the times when you lose. That's true sportsmanship. And here's the jackpot question, number 7. Do you choose your friends only because they're regular guys without caring what side of the track they live on? Now, that's very important, because the fellow who can size up another guy for what he's really worth is the one others will always look up to. Well, boys and girls, there you have them. The 7 questions that are the key to leadership and popularity. Use them to open the doors of friendship for you, and you'll always be tops.
And now, back to the adventures of Superman. All day long at the Daily Planet, Jimmy Olsen has been on tenterhooks, watching Clark Kent come and go. Returning from police headquarters at 4:30, Kent shut himself into his office. And now, watching the long hands of the city room clock move to 5 p.m., to 5:30, and then to 5:45, Jimmy is becoming desperate, because Kent is still at his desk. And it is in Kent's office promptly at 6 o'clock that Jimmy has a rendezvous with Shushiah the Genie. The time reaches 5:50, then 5:55, and the frantic Jimmy is alternately praying and racking his brains for some means to get Kent out of his office and out of the building. But he can think of nothing. And at 2 minutes before 6 o'clock, he just gives up all hope. When suddenly, Kent's door opens.
Hello, Jim.
Oh.
How come you're still here at this hour?
I'm expecting a message. Are you leaving now, Mr. Kent?
Yes, I'm meeting Inspector Henderson at Mayor White's office. Henderson thinks he may have a clue to that explosion last night.
Oh, well, you better hurry, huh?
Yeah, I'm on my way. Look, if Lois comes in before you leave, tell her where I am, will you, and ask her to wait?
Yeah.
I told her I'd discuss that Sunday feature with her.
Yeah, sure. I'll tell her. You better... Oh, gosh.
What's the matter?
But it's 6 o'clock. You better step on it. Hurry.
Hey, you sound as if you're anxious to get rid of me. Are you?
Oh, me? Where'd you ever get that idea?
From the way you're behaving.
Well, what do you mean?
I'll talk to you about it later. There's no time now. So long.
So long, Mr. Kent.
Waiting tensely until Clark Kent has left the city room, Jimmy jerks open his desk drawer, snatches up the small carved box containing the bronze genie, and races into Kent's office, closing the door behind him. The young reporter sits down at the desk and with trembling hands removes the tiny bronze figure with the horned head of a man and the body of a ram, then sets it in front of him.
Oh, get hold of yourself, Olsen. You know you really don't believe in this stuff. Uh-oh. The genie's rocking, like it did yesterday, just before it started to talk.
What is your wish, Master?
Leaps. It's talking again.
State your wish, Master, and it shall be granted.
His eyes wide, Jimmy Olsen stares in awe at the tiny rocking figure of the genie, and he hears the same voice he heard yesterday promising to grant his wish. Jimmy's intelligence warns him not to believe what he sees or hears, but despite that, he finds himself speaking, uttering his wish.
Come on, Shushiah. Give me a big scoop, like you did yesterday, so I'll get to be a famous reporter like Mr. Kent.
What will happen as Jimmy wishes for the best and Clark Kent fears the worst? We'll find out in tomorrow's thrill-packed episode, fellows and girls, so be sure to listen. Tune in, same time, same station for Chapter 5 of The Secret of the Genie on The Adventures of Superman. Superman is a transcribed copyrighted feature appearing in Superman DC Comics magazine and is brought to you Monday through Friday at this same time. Watch for the Superman Adventure serial, soon to be shown at your local movie theater.
Stay tuned now for Adventure Parade, which follows in just a moment. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, Jimmy seems to be driven by a couple of factors here. Number one, he's somewhat embarrassed about this, but also he does seem to kind of like the fact that he got a big story out of this, not really thinking that it nearly killed him. Andrea thinks this is all fake and that he is headed into some danger, and I tend to agree. But we'll find out more for sure coming up on Sunday. Well, this marks 1,000 episodes of the old-time radio Superman show. As we near the end of the Adventures of Superman radio series, in celebration of this, I went ahead and brought back some old friends. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Well, this is the 1,000th episode of the old-time radio Superman show, but I didn't host all 1,000 episodes. I took a lot of time off in the summer of 2014 when I was doing the war, and Blaine Dowler and Nathan Caldwell stepped up and guest hosted the program so I could just have that little bit off my plate, and I really appreciated that then. And so to help us celebrate reaching the 1,000 episode mark, we decided to go ahead and bring them back. Blaine and Nathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me back.
It's great to be back.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and start with Blaine. You did a special on this, but just really briefly, what is your overall impression of the Superman radio show and its significance, and are there any favorite storylines that stand out to you?
In terms of the general impressions, I'm actually really happy, in particular with Bud Collyer as Superman. I know that, Mark Hamill likes to credit Kevin Conroy and Paul Soles from the 1967 Spider-Man show for being the first two voice actors to not just use their normal voice for the civilian persona and then change the voice for the superhero, but to have two different voices for them. And it sounds to me like Bud Collyer was doing the same with Clark Kent and Superman. Neither of those voices are the true Bud Collyer voice. So I really appreciate that. He was putting a lot of effort in at a time when this type of entertainment wasn't particularly well respected. It wasn't just appropriate for kids, it was considered to be exclusively for kids. But that's not the impression I get in the writing. They're clearly very cognizant of the fact that kids are listening to it, and they have messages that are worthwhile for the kids. But it's one of the early examples of the so-called family entertainment where they're trying to make sure that when the kids are listening, it's not boring the parents, which is not the case in a lot of family entertainment these days. So on top of the additions to the mythos like Perry White, The Daily Planet, Jimmy Olsen, Kryptonite, I just like the fact that right out of the gate they were treating it with respect. They understood they had something special here, and Superman was just going to be a flash in the pan, which was something that they may have been thinking when it first launched. And I particularly like the ones where he's fighting crime syndicates more so than the supervillains myself, because a lot of those are really topical, and some of the things that they've included about how to treat your fellow man that we've been hearing recently are sadly still lessons that a lot of people seem to need to learn.
Yeah, definitely. Nathan, what are your thoughts?
Well, nowadays it's really hard to find good, clean entertainment, especially good, clean entertainment that's actually engaging. And Superman in the old-time radio days was definitely that. And it didn't matter, at least to me, it doesn't matter whether you're a kid or an adult. You can enjoy it, as Blaine, you mentioned. One thing that kind of gets me is when Batman comes along, he's not Batman, he's Weakling Man, which is, a little disappointing. However, it's interesting that you hear him go, tune in on the same time and same station, and you're thinking, that's what Batman's show said, a few years down the road. But as far as, it's good, clean entertainment. The thing that would have been awesome that didn't happen was it would have been awesome for the drama to pick up, for there to be continuing drama throughout all the episodes. You didn't see a growing relationship really between Clark and Lois, which, in the later ages is probably when that happened. But stuff like that, being that I'm now used to it, you kind of want to see it, and it's not there. But it's a great show. The one that sticks out probably is the one, I think it's the Meteor Man or something, Atomic Man or something, where he's trapped under the Superman's in the casket.
Oh,
and he's got the kryptonite keeping him. That kind of sticks out in my mind. What the best episode was, I don't know. Regarding what is going on currently, Justice League is looking exciting. But I've been watching, and I've got to preface this, you know, and I know you're a Christian as well, Adam. It's really difficult to say I 100% suggest something to somebody. I always seem to have to say, I like this show, but be careful, there are things in it that I don't like. But Smallville is something I've been watching recently. But you also been noticing there's some things in Smallville that you forget was there when you watched it the first time. And you kind of have to be careful. Parents, watch each episode before you let your kids see it, because it's not always kid-friendly. It's not anywhere close to today's mess, but still.
Well, I would say that for me, we pointed out some of the things, you know, and I think you're right. It's interesting that Batman is, you know, not all that, but I think there are some pretty innovative storytelling, and I think Blaine, you know, he hit on a good point about how much effort that Bud Collyer put into this. Because if you listen, say, to the Green Hornet, there's very little differentiation between Britt Reed and the Green Hornet. There's a lot of effort that Bud Collyer puts into this, and he does not get enough credit for what he meant to Superman. You know, he did. Nobody has played Superman longer. Nobody appeared in more programs, and he not only did these, he did cartoons. He did the 1960s cartoons, which were not quite up to the same standard. But I think when it comes to the stories, there are a lot that I appreciate. I have a very warm place in my heart for the last of the Clipper ships from the early 40s, as well as the Atom Man stories. I think that, you know, it's a tremendous arc, and I think when he does, you know, take on the Klan by proxy, well, I think you almost had too many of those episodes all in a row. There are a lot of them that I really appreciated for, you know, taking that tough stand. The other question Nathan already kind of answered. I wanted to go ahead and ask, though, Blaine, have you seen anything with Superman that you recommend or that you found to be particularly good?
The one that I would recommend most strongly to fans of the radio show may already be familiar to them, and that would be in particular the first season of The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves. It is a continuation of the tone. It's a continuation of sort of that target audience. So it's still, you know, appropriate for children, but engaging for adults and nothing really objectionable. I mean, I know what you're talking about with Smallville. I was watching it from the start. Never missed an episode, but that one was definitely, it was created with what would teens choose to watch in mind, and not all parents would be happy with their teens seeing the content that teens are interested in watching that they included. And I think that's kind of what Nathan was getting at there.
Yeah.
That first season of The Adventures of Superman with Phyllis Coates, who was still my favorite Lois Lane. She was showing her as, you know, tough as nails. It wasn't, you know, you don't get a lot of the sexism that you get in a lot in the time where it's, you know, she's just a woman or anything like that. She was a very capable reporter first, and a woman second, and that's the way everyone treated her. The job mattered more than the gender. And yeah, sometimes she'd be kidnapped, but, she's not, the withering violet or the shrinking violet who just succumbs and waits to be rescued. She would fight back as hard as she could. So that's where I would suggest, which, it is pretty natural, because apparently that was produced by a lot of the same people who were producing the last season of the radio show, and when they continued on TV, they even managed to continue with the same major sponsor. So,
yeah,
and sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting because to me the TV show seems to have the same feel as the radio show, as far as the same atmosphere, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, especially that first season. By the end, not so much. The last couple seasons are much harder to engage the adult viewers. They do skew much younger in the last couple of the color seasons. But those first two full-length black and white seasons, I think, are very much a similar tone to the radio show.
Yeah, I've been watching those, and I would agree. One thing that I really do recommend for people is to check out the Superman comic strip collections that have been being released by the American Comics Library over the past few years. Some very interesting storylines, particularly the Golden Age stuff during the World Wars. And I actually honestly find DC's current take on Superman to be pretty fascinating, because, it's Nathan talked about it being used to the idea of him and Lois getting together, and, that's not an element of the radio program, partially because they had pretty much made clear for kids that this was going to be a platonic relationship. And there wasn't going to be any romance, so the boys apparently wouldn't go you. But the comic series, what they're doing now is they have Superman, who was actually from a previous retconned Earth, takes over being Superman on the current DC Earth. And he's married to Lois, and they're raising a son who's going to be the next Superboy. And it's a fascinating exploration of the character and taking them some interesting places. And it's kind of a change from many magazines that comics that have taken the stance that the best once a character's married, that's it. And it's finding some new things to go with them. So I'm actually pretty excited about that and would recommend that. So our final question, we'll start with Nathan. Could you tell us what projects you're up to and where our listeners can find you on the Internet?
Well, other than pastoring in Houston, Arkansas, I am doing Protectorate Productions over at facebook.com/Protectors of the Book. There you will find some Bible study stuff in the form of a podcast called Protectors of the Book and Quest for Truth. You will find comedy in the form of Team Jadis Live, and one I'm really excited about, you will find audio drama. Now, this is kind of new for me, but I am now looking for even volunteer actors. Obviously, I can't pay anybody, but we're doing fan-based Doctor Who. We're doing a couple Christian shows, one called Stronghold, which is like a fighting a drug lord, and this drug lord is, let's just say, he's got some pretty messed up stuff. And then there's a show called Dangerous Christian, which is kind of like MacGyver meets Knight Rider meets The Cross. So very busy, but enjoying every minute of it.
All right. And Blaine, what are you up to?
I've got a few podcast projects. They're all organized through Bureau42.com, and they show up in the Bureau 42 master audio feed on iTunes and Stitcher and whatnot if you're interested. Of those shows, there's an X-Files retrospective show my comic book physics show is going to wrap up with episode 50 at the end of 2017. But the listeners of the Old Time Radio Superman show, the two shows I've done that are probably of most interest to you, there's the unofficial 75 Greatest Marvels countdown, which was, it's finished now, but in Marvel's 75th anniversary, they released a list of the 75 greatest Marvel stories as voted by fans. So that was, rotating guest hosts going through all 75 stories in a countdown. So that one was a lot of fun. And there's also an old-time radio show, which is comparable to this, but without any hosting. I'm just taking the original files for Dimension X and uploading them. There's a new one out every Sunday, just because the existing feeds I found for that were either incomplete or out of sequence. I mean, there was one I was subscribed to for 6 years, and there was 4 available episodes that never showed up in the 40-some episode rotation, but there's others that came up about 12 times. So that's available every Sunday, just every episode of Dimension X in sequence.
All right, that sounds great. Well, thank you both so much for joining us, and thanks so much for contributing to us getting to 1,000 episodes. Really appreciate it, and great to celebrate Superman with you.
Blaine Dowler, Nathan Caldwell, and myself in a very fun interview. And I appreciate everyone listening and allowing me to be able to reach this 1,000th episode. And I hope you'll stay with us through the final weeks of the serial era as we get into the half-hour shows, which will happen in just a couple months now. But in the meantime, we'll be back on Sunday with Part 5 of The Secret of the Genie. If you do have a comment, send it to me, adam@adamsweb.us, and be sure and rate the show on iTunes. Also, I encourage you to pick up your copy of Powerhouse's Heroic Adventures bundle wherever fine ebooks are sold, or as an audiobook at audible.com or the iTunes store. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.